I believe we have a quorum in the room if the members would start moving to the front. I'd also would announce, it looks like we're maybe at overcapacity. The Senate Room A, or the room behind this room, is available as well if anyone would want to go over there and watch it on the monitors. But otherwise, we can, if you want to stand against the walls, that will be fine too. Okay, clerk, call the roll. Cast your presence. Haven't seen him. Okay, clerk, close the roll. Okay, a quorum is present, so we'll move forward with business. Good morning, everyone. We have a pretty heavy docket this morning, but we have a number of House members here and House bills that are identical or similar, or we will conform to Senate bills previously heard. So we'll try to clear that up, and that will relieve some of our House members, and then we'll try to be as efficient as we can moving through the rest of the docket. I would call the members' attention to a series of bills that are identical to Senate bills that I'd like to take up in a block. That would be House Bill 71, Mayers, House Joint Resolution 6, Mayers, House Bill 1427, Kilgore, House Bill 527, James, House Bill 1179, Pillion, House Bill 799, Stolley, House Bill 532, Freitas, and House Bill 826, Knight. I would entertain a motion to take those up in a block.
I'll move them in the block, sir.
There's a second. Motion properly supported that the aforementioned bills be reported in a block. In discussion. Hearing none, clerk, open the roll when you're ready. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 12, no 0.
Ayes 12, no 0. The bills are reported. Okay, I think just for the convenience of those that are here, I'll just try to go down the list of delegates that are here. Delegate Kilgore, you're first up if you want to take your bills. We just reported House
Right.
Bill 1427.
Right, and I have the House Bill 663, which is a cooperative agreement. Mr. Chairman, that deals with the Department of Health and their costs that they're going to have in examining and approving and all that, the cooperative agreement where the health systems came together down there, and this was included in the governor's budget, and it's money that's being paid by Ballot Health to the Department of Health for this ongoing supervision, examination, review of their cooperative agreement. That's all it is. It was all included in the governor's budget. It's not general fund money.
Okay. House Bill 663, dealing with Health Commissioner recovering costs from a cooperative agreement from a merger that was in Southwest Virginia. Wish we had this in place last year. Maybe we'd have got a better deal, Senator Carey, you think?
Maybe so.
Maybe. Anyone here to speak for or against this measure?
I mean, the Department of Health's here if you need to hear it.
Right. And as Delegate Kilgore mentioned, there's some non-general fund costs that are included in the budget. Motion properly supported to report House Bill 663, the cooperative agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Yes.
Ayes 13, no 0.
Ayes 13, no 0. The bill is reported.
And Mr. Chairman, the next one you had a similar bill, the coal tax credit 665.
665.
And I think there might have been is there an amendment? I think there's an amendment to that.
Yes, see, Lisa, do we have an amendment there, Lisa?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Lisa?
we do have an amendment. The
Oh,
amendment-
Charles?
The amendment just clarifies that the coal producers would not be able to claim the refundable portion during that period in which the refundable portion of the credit had expired.
Right. So you couldn't go back.
Right, and you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept that amendment? Motion properly supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill is in front of us. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Shippey representing Sierra Club. We believe that the coal tax credit is poor policy. It's been shown not to actually increase or even retain jobs in the coal industry. So we urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think y'all have been consistent on that. Yep,
Right.
okay, all right.
That's correct.
Okay. Was there anyone else speaking in opposition? We have a motion to report, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes.
That's what I was like, that's what was on my mind.
Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 2.
Ayes 11, noes 2, the bill is reported.
And finally,
Mr. Chairman, could you, I'm going to move to reconsider that vote. I don't think everybody was quite paying attention.
Okay, all right, we can do that. Are you offering a motion to reconsider?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion properly supported to reconsider the motion. Is that recorded, John? Okay. Tell me when you're ready then.
Roll is open.
Okay, cast your votes to reconsider. You voted, yeah.
I know it is.
Okay. The clerk close the roll.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
13, noes 1.
Second.
Okay. Motion properly supported to report House Bill 665. Clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 10, noes 4.
Ayes 10, noes 4, the bill is reported.
And thank you. I've got one more.
One
It's,
more?
Yeah, it is the House Bill 1605. It's a bill that I brought for the Attorney General's office to comply with the Master Settlement Agreement. I think there is a reenactment clause that's been,
The Delegate Kilgore, we have been offered and staff has prepared an amendment. Have you seen that amendment? You okay with that amendment?
yes.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to that amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Mr. Chairman, I think there was some of the parties have been trying to work something out, one of the smaller manufacturers, and trying to work some things out, and this will give us an opportunity to
Right.
continue to work on that process.
And as I recall, we had a Senate bill that would have accomplished the same purpose, and the patron and the Attorney General didn't come to an agreement in support of that at that time. But
I just keep working. I'm trying.
Okay, so at this point, is there anyone here in opposition to this bill, particularly with the amendment? All right, seeing none, what's the pleasure of the committee? Okay, motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 1605 as amended. No further discussion. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 0.
Ayes 14, no 0. The bill is
Thank
reported.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Kilgore. Delegate Marshall. Good morning.
So let me tell you my story.
Got a story?
I have a story.
Okay.
You don't want to hear it, that's what the bill, then vote for the bill then. So last year, about this time, I came up with an idea that it was too late to get a bill passed. Long story short, I went to Secretary Brown. I said, can you do this by regulation or by legislation? He said, you need a bill. So in my part of the state, in Frank Russ part of the state also, we have joint industrial parks. The city of Danville and Pennsylvania County have these joint industrial parks, and it is it's an arrangement that the property tax is split. So we have had several companies come through that are fairly large. We hadn't got to fish in the boat yet, but we were still fishing. And the good thing is if this company locates in Pittsylvania County, then Pittsylvania County would bill the property tax to this company. Then Pittsylvania County would turn around and pay the city of Danville half of the property tax. All's great until composite index comes along. And then when composite index comes along, all of that industry is sitting in Pittsylvania County, and so Pittsylvania County gets the hit. And so it's not just Pittsylvania County and Danville. You know, with Go Virginia, we're talking about trying to expand, regional cooperation. And so the unintended consequence is this issue of composite index. And so this bill was vetted in counties and towns, and it went to House Appropriations. And so Joe Mayer, with the lead analyst with the Tax Policy Department, worked really hard with the appropriations people. And if you look at the bill, there is a delayed enactment clause of July 1, 2020. So it gets the next rewrite of the composite index. So that's what the bill does.
Okay. Anyone here to speak on this bill other than the story you just told us?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Anyone here in opposition to the bill? Delegate Marshall, when we looked at this, I think the only reservation that we had was we have sidetracked a couple bills and continued them because we are hoping to work rather significantly on the composite index this year. And it does appear that this would impact the composite index, which that's what you're attempting to do here in one instance. With this revenue sharing agreement, or that is anticipated. Is that a fair statement?
It is if you're going to vote for my bill.
I think I like your bill, but the hesitation was the other moving parts that we might. Would it since you have a delayed effective date on it, would it adversely impact where you want to go if we were to continue it and make it a part?
You know, if you want to continue it, and I understand, I thought you might want to do that.
Right.
So since it's a delayed enactment clause, I can come back to see you next year.
Okay, but I think, Delegate Marshall, we would want to take the subject up between now and then, though we do intend to work on it some.
Okay.
Any member of the committee have a different opinion on this or have thoughts?
I like the story.
You like the story? All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? All right, there's a motion properly supported to continue the bill to 2019. Any further discussion? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 1.
Ayes 11, noes 1. The bill is continued. Thank you, Delegate
Thank you.
Marshall.
Have a great day.
Delegate Habib.
Morning, sir. I've got House Bill 153. This actually started the exact same as Senator Stanley's Senate Bill 177. This expands the Revolutionary War Graves Program. Currently, to be covered, you have to be a soldier or sailor. That excludes all African American and females who provided patriotic service because they could not legally enlist. What this bill does is brings African Americans and females who provided patriotic service in. What you all did with Stanley's bill is just put the clause on it and send it over to us. What we did on the House side was reduce the number down to 4,200, which is the currently identified number. It's actually in the House budget. So we reduced the number, put it in the budget. Y'all put the clause on and send it over. I think what we will end up doing is conforming Stanley's bill to my bill, but your General Laws Committee, I think, that heard this did not conform my bill to Stanley's bill. So if you want to, you could return mine to the original bill, stick the clause on it, send it back to us, then we'd be conformed, we'll reject and get into conference. Or if you think it's going to be in the budget at 4,200 seats, you could go ahead and advance my bill as it is, or you could kill it if you don't like it.
Well,
I think those are the options.
Delegate Habib, that had crossed my mind, but
Yeah.
not that I don't like it, it's just we were concerned about going a different direction here with an unknown quantity, because they're all dead now, right?
Well, we actually, the proponents of this can bring you a list of the very precise ones.
resents that.
There are 42 currently identified. The original bill, I think, had like 6,000 in it, 4,200. That's why we reduced the House bill to the currently identified number and then funded that amount in the House budget.
Okay. I suppose if, if the will of the committee is to conform it with the clause, that would be the fair thing to do probably, and then you and Senator Ruff
Yep.
perhaps can work this out.
Yeah, and so if you do conform it, you'd want to probably change the number back and then put the clause on it.
Does that seem logical there, Lisa? Okay. Do we have a motion to that effect? Is there a second? Motion properly supported to conform the bill, that is House Bill 153, to the Senate bill previously passed with the clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 153 as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Ayes 14, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Habib. Delegate Edmonds.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Let me tell you a story. Just kidding. I actually did circulate some talking points about my bill. I'm sure you guys don't hear too many hunting bills in this committee, but anyway, it's a very simple bill, and the bill is to, I'll give you a little backstory. 3 years ago, the deer, turkey, and bear combination tag were all included in the same tag for one price. 3 years ago, the General Assembly allowed DGIF to split the bear tag off. They wanted to have data on finding out how many bear hunters there actually were. Turns out there are about 32,000. It's been consistent over the last 3 years, so the data's been collected. And with the problem with it was, when they split the tag off, they decided they would charge $20 for it. So basically, in essence, the hunter who was buying prior to that, all 3 tags for 23, was now paying 43 per person. So times 3 people in a family, for instance, that's a pretty substantial increase, and it was causing people not to buy the bear tags and kind of making bear hunting an elitist activity. So my bill puts the bear tag back with the deer and turkey combination for the current $23, but it also increases the non-resident tag, new combo tag, to $150 to make up the difference in the revenue for DGF. And that was how we came with the bill. So.
Okay. You have people here to speak to the bill? Or?
I think the department may be here, but I don't know if they...
That's what I was wondering, whether or not they are in agreement with this.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Guest, Game and Inland Fisheries. The original bill was to change the price of the tag, and we were opposed to that. The administration is opposed, so we're still opposed. However, the patron was gracious enough to work with us to make the financial impact pretty much a wash. So, and he worked with us quite a bit on that.
Okay, so your official position is?
It's still opposed.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, over here, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Obuchain?
If you don't mind, could I just ask you to tell us why you're opposed?
Mr. Chairman, primarily the governor's opposed, so that has to be our position.
Roger Wilco.
Okay. Is anyone else in the audience opposed besides the governor? Okay, we've got someone coming forward here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Kirby Birch for the Virginia Hunting Dog Alliance. We oppose this bill for some pretty fundamental reasons. In 1998, the Bear Hunters Association asked the legislature to create this separate tag to recognize the premier game animal in Virginia. They were willing to put up extra money, just as the duck hunters have been, for a separate stamp. The amount of money would go to help the department and help wildlife management. In 2004, it was the pleasure of the Assembly to give the Game Board the authority to set license fees and to adjust them by up or down by a maximum of $5 a year. They retain that authority until this bill. When they separated the tag, they decided that the price, which was mandated in the original legislation to be at $25 for residents and $150 for non-residents. They decided to decrease the resident tag by the allowable maximum they could, $5. This year, they can, if they choose, if this bill should fail, they can reduce that tag further another $5. But the bear hunters of Virginia and the people that call themselves bear hunters, and I'm one of them, honor an animal that is, again, our premier wildlife example in Virginia. It is a great animal, and we want to continue this. The tag brought in $803,000 to the department last year. Now, the figures that the department have given you about the fiscal impact are optimistic, we believe, because the non-resident deer, bear, and turkey stamp is going to go from $60 to $150. So when your family comes in from out of state for Thanksgiving, they're going to pay quite a bit more to go on your traditional hunt. And we're asking you to leave it as it is. It does not hurt the population. It does not hurt the finances of the agency. And the bear hunters of Virginia, 33,000 of them, support leaving it as it is and killing this bill. Thank you very much. If it'd be the pleasure of this committee, please defeat it.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else to speak in opposition? I'll take one more speaker in opposition, and then I'll let you, Delegate Evans, sum it up.
I'm Steve Nicely. I'm Vice President of the Virginia Bear Hunters Association. We're very much opposed to this bill. 3/4 of the bears are west of the Blue Ridge. And we don't mind, just like the duck hunters, they pay $27 to duck hunt. That helps the ducks. The $21 for this tag helps all animals. It doesn't just help a bear, it helps all animals. That goes into the general fund. It's expanded every year. This year they've had a record bear kill. If we turn 209,000 deer hunters out on our finite bear population of about 17,000 animals, I think, we could see a substantial decrease in the number of bears that are in Virginia. This bill has added $2.3 million in 3 years to the funds at VDGIF. And that's a pretty substantial amount of money. And people don't mind paying to see all animals helped, not just the bear. It helps everybody. And it's a good thing for everybody. Our sport is expanding. We have children and women that support our hunting. Deer hunting is in decline. Turkey hunting is in decline. And it's in big decline. It's a decline. The deer hunting has declined almost 100,000 hunters. We're expanding. We don't think it needs any fixing. We think it's fine like it is. And it gives us the ability to collaborate with the Game Commission to set special seasons where they're needed. For instance, they wanted to kill a lot more bear in the Harrisonburg area this year and west of the Blue Ridge. They wanted to kill 14% more. We had a 3-day early season in the time when bears are feeding 24 hours a day. They killed a substantial amount of bear. Instead of the 14% that they called for, they ended up taking 17%. Now, it takes more than 1 year to determine what's going on, but in 5 years, they'll probably get what they want. If they turn all these people loose on the bear, we're going to see probably over 4,000 bears killed, and that's just too many. Bears are very slow to increase.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. Delegate Evans, you want to sum it up?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you would give me 2 minutes, could I yield one of mine to Delegate Ferris?
I think you could. Y'all are working together, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, first I want to say that about 20,000 of us bear hunters, and I'm not really a bear hunter. A bear hunter's a bad dude. He crawls around the mountains. But the 20,000 of us that wanted a bear hunting permit had to buy a bear hunting permit. And the bear really increased when the licenses were all together. And that's an issue we have in Southside Virginia, is an increased bear population. We're not going to hurt the bears.
Okay, all right. All right, Doug Evans?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think the biology of the harvest amounts for bears should be determined by the cost of the tag. That should be determined by the length of the season and the number of tags per hunter. I know the Bear Hunters Association resents deer hunters, as they refer to as stump hunters. That's a deer hunter who's hunting and a bear comes by shooting a bear. But nevertheless, there's a lot of us. And Mr. Chairman, I would tell you that I've probably had more comments on my Facebook page, on my everything you can think of outlet in support of this, because they did not like it. It was overwhelmingly opposed when it was the price was put on the tag 3 years ago. So with that, I guess I conclude.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ruff?
Tourism is important in our area. And don't you think this is going to do some damage from those hunters that want to come across the state line? And not only if they're going to spend some money on the license, but will it lose money in other ways? If they don't come across, will there be as many restaurant usage?
Senator Ruff, I thank you for the question. Right now, well, two questions, two comments. One, most of our neighboring states charge way more. In fact, I think Kentucky is $400 and some for those 3 tags. West Virginia is much higher. North Carolina is kind of mirrors what we do. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe Tom can confirm this, but if you have all 3 tags, actually it's still going to be less money. Is that correct? If you buy a non-resident?
Okay, all right, I think
Anyway,
Ruff, does that answer your question? Or?
And the youth tag is still the same price.
Okay.
Youth
All right.
non-resident tag.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Carrico?
I'd just like to speak to the bill real quick. So I represent an area that is big bear hunters, and I represent an area where there's a lot of corn and crops and so forth that has grown, and because of the damage that these bears do to those crops, this influx of people who come in to hunt these bear are families. They come from North Carolina, Tennessee, to the families there in Virginia, where your Facebook and emails were lit up in support of. Mine's been lit up in opposition to, because you're basically doing something here. And look, they are a different hunting group. They're not the ones that you see routinely hunting deer and turkey. Their focus is on bear. Their dogs are running the bear. They're the ones that keep the crops from being destroyed. So you're not only doing a lot in my region that we're having problems with bears destroying crops, but you're also prohibiting families from across the region, and the permits are not being issued, no, to kill that many bears and for the crops that are in that region. So I really think that what this bill does hurts us more than helps us.
Okay, all right. I think we've probably spent enough time on this one. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I move to report just to move it along.
Okay. Is there a second? Motion properly supported to report the bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Okay, you got it?
He wanted to vote for it.
Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 6, noes nay. Noes 9.
Ayes 6, noes 9. The bill fails to report. Thank you, Delegate Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, any House members here that got to leave to chair committee, I'd like to go ahead and grab you. Delegate Orrock?
Garrett and I both on
And
the
Garrett?
same side.
Orrock, okay, if we could get you up here, I think your bills might be.
Mr. Chairman, I've got four bills.
Four
If you may
bills,
take
okay,
them
let's see
in
if we
this
can
order. First,
take care of
House
them.
Bill 871.
Okay? House Bill 871.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill comes at the request of Farm Bureau. We found the experience several counties in the state take a very narrow interpretation of what agricultural uses are as it relates to land use taxation. This simply puts in place a mechanism whereby the code stipulates these are legitimate agricultural uses. The other provision it makes is some counties are currently doing an annual revalidation and others are up to 6 years. We're just codifying that those who are doing it in a 6-year time frame may continue to do so. There was some question whether they needed to have to do it every year. We're just giving local governments that flexibility at their discretion, but no longer than a 6-year revalidation period.
Okay. Anyone here speak for or against? I know there are people here supporting. Anyone here against this bill, which I view as clarifying? Member, what's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 871. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Close the roll, please.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is reported.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, House Bill 1442.
1442.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is dealing with wetlands assessments. The two things that we're trying to address is the validity of these federally established wetlands maps, that they have to be recognized. Still doesn't say they have to go by that, but they have to recognize them as valid instruments in the argument when the landowner brings forward the request to assess differently, and adding one additional federal U.S. Army Corps of Engineers map designation as a similarly valid instrument that the property owner can bring forward and has to be, quote, recognized.
Okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill? What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 1442. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, House Bill 1495.
House Bill 1495.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is dealing with a circumstance that's occurred in my district where the property owner disputed the assessment, took it up with the local commissioner of revenue. By the time the commissioner of revenue came down with their final decision, and the property owner would then otherwise have had the right to go to the Board of Equalization on appeal, the board no longer existed, that the time for their staying constituted had expired. What this bill does, given that this property owner's only recourse now is to go to the judge, this would empower the judge, not mandate, but empower the judge to order the reconstituting for this case of the Board of Equalization so that they may hear the appeal. It would not negate the property owner's then further right to go back to the judge. This is just giving another tool to the judge, given that most judges, from what I understand, don't like to get in the middle of these things until they've been through the full process. This is just giving an additional tool to the judge at their discretion.
Okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill, which allows the circuit court to extend the terms of the Board of Equalization? Seeing no one, what's the pleasure of the committee? Is there a second? Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 1495. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Louise? Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you,
Not
Delegate.
meaning to press my luck, but I have one other.
Oh, do you?
House Bill 888.
Okay.
And this, I purposely saved this because all these others were dealing with kind of property tax, things of that nature. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, what this bill will do is privatize the septic permitting process. You'll see in the measure of the bill, it's got a rolling effectiveness. It is ceding to the private sector greater autonomy and thereby greater competition. The intent is that hopefully, one, it will make the process quicker for the property owner. It will let the department better utilize their resources in addressing potential health issues, but it still leaves in place a mechanism whereby, at the property owner's request, the department still becomes an entity that they can go to get these design processes done and assistance in designing their systems.
Okay. Dr. Larick, we have prepared a substitute for this, which I don't think changes the
Okay.
bill. Lisa, would you want to describe the substitute, and we'll get that passed out?
Mr. Chairman, my very descriptive is that the Agriculture and Natural Resources Attorney drafted this and said that it was needed for the bill.
I haven't seen it, but it's okay.
This is a little outside my area of expertise.
Okay, okay. At any rate, we had, is there a motion that we adopt the substitute? Second. All those in favor of adopting substitute signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
And, Mr. Chairman, if staff has an additional copy, I would appreciate one.
Okay.
If it's not too much trouble.
Right. As far as I can tell, Delegate Orrock, it just doesn't change anything. It just does it differently, like we're prone to do sometimes.
Mr. Chairman, and was this substitute requested as some circumstances, some opposition apparently arose with Fairfax, or do we know?
Lisa, do you?
Mr. Chairman, if we could pass this by temporarily, I can get the Natural Resources Attorney down here. Sewage is just a little outside my area of expertise, so.
Okay. Delegate Orrock, I know you.
Right. I'll be glad to suspend it.
And I know you need to go to your.
And Delegate Garrett is on the same subcommittee, so if maybe he could, and by the time he's done, we may get a
Okay,
roster.
all right. Delegate Garrett, all right, we'll suspend then if we get some confirmation, because I had not been aware of the substitute until just now. Delegate Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, you have before you House Bill 1440. Each year we have a bill that typically conforms our State Drug Control Act to drug scheduling actions done at the federal level. There are 3 drugs that this impacts this year. Your very capable staff tells me that you did not have the Woodrum Amendment in your budget, sir. But this puts one drug into Schedule 1. It's a drug that's already being abused on our streets. Puts one drug into Schedule 2 that's being used. That's the first FDA-approved drug for nausea and vomiting, for chemotherapy, and as well for anorexia or loss of weight in folks with HIV. So that's basically what the bill does.
Okay, Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, however functionally we need to do this, I think we need to do this. So if we have to put any clauses on it or whatever, but these are important bills that came out of our committee. We need to get this on the books, but however functionally we deal with the money, we need to do that.
Okay. I would think we need to add the clause. Senator McDougal has been pretty tight with the Woodrum amendments this year, so I would expect that's what we need to do. Okay.
Second.
Motion properly supported to add the financial contingency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report as amended.
Motion properly supported to report House Bill 1440 as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported.
I thank the chairman and the committee.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I think I got it figured out, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, what the substitute does different from the original legislation. Page 1 of the bill, lines 25, it makes clear that hardships will be based on availability within the private sector and the general poverty level within that area, whether we don't want to create a mechanism whereby if there's very few providers in an area, property owners are going to be held captive to them, but rather have the state act as that calming factor on the cost of things, because you can always go to the state, so it's going to keep cost within reason. And then the other big factor is the enactment clauses on line 41 where we make clear DPOR. We'll have to work with the department to see if we need to change anything within the regulatory scheme for those individuals who are licensed in the private sector to perform these services.
Okay. And you're comfortable with that
Yes,
now?
sir.
Okay, and I know you have worked on this a lot with the Health Department and with former Delegate Ed Scott, I believe.
Yes.
In terms of putting this together. Okay, anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill? What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 888, amendment nature of a substitute. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, noes 0, 1 abstention.
Ayes 15, no zero, one abstention. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee have been most kind.
Thank you, Delegate. All right, returning to our list here, Delegate Ferris is up next.
I've never been in one, but this kind of feels like getting called out of a police lineup.
So you were familiar with being called out of a police lineup, I presume?
No, sir. No, sir. I said I didn't know that, but I'm just looking at who I'm sitting with. I think it could be anyhow.
Okay. What bill?
Mr. Chairman, my House Bill 1460.
1460.
Yes, sir. And it just changes in code, provides that a person who has land preservation credits, that those credits would follow his estate. Sometimes people use these tax credits and put their land in conservation easements for estate planning reasons, and I found out that it doesn't follow their estate. So if they find out they're sick and decide to do this to help with their estate, and their demise comes faster than they thought, then those credits are lost.
Right.
I just thought that was not.
Okay. I understand, but in fact, I had a situation in my area last year that this bill would have helped. And I'm very supportive of this program, more supportive than Senator Norman is, but it's a good program. Is there a second? Okay. Anyone here to oppose the bill? All right, there's a motion properly supported to report the bill. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes.
Thank y'all.
Clerk, close the roll. Thank you. The bill is reported. Thank you, Delegate Ferris. Delegate Rush.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills. Would you like to start?
And I got to share, I'm prejudiced against your bills. You were a little too aggressive on the basketball court last night.
I apologize for that. Mr. Chairman, if I may, you played really, really well.
Well.
Hard-fought game, and you were a real star.
Well, where I sat most of the time, it was hard to goof up. Okay, which bill you want to take up first?
House Bill 362 is it's a small change requested by the Virginia Lottery. Currently in statute, they must have a full-time law enforcement, and they want to be allowed to hire a part-time law enforcement officer. So literally, just deletes two words out of the code.
I was looking for my notes here. It seems like this one might have got caught up in the LODA. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think.
Were we going to fix that? Did we got an amendment? Okay. Dr. Rush, we had some other bills that partially dealt with LODA, and rather than pass them, we had continued them with a letter. You okay with that? It's not that we feel like, and I don't know whether you were a part of the LODA work group, but we think we're going to have to restart that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was not. I mean, this is a small fiscal impact. That the
It
lottery
is,
says
but it does impact LOTUS.
Sure.
So, okay, if you don't have strong objection, we'll do that and try to address your issue. Hopefully by next year then.
That would be fine.
What's the pleasure of the committee? There's a motion properly supported that the bill be continued to the 2019 session. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill will be continued and referred hopefully to a work group that we're going to get restarted.
Sounds good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Next is House Bill 365. It's the Virginia Real Estate Investment Trust. This bill allows the establishment of a real estate investment trust that meets certain criteria, and the proceeds are treated much like a Roth IRA, where they would not be taxed at the individual income tax level in Virginia. This criteria was designed to help distressed and double distressed communities. So, to give you an example, you could purchase a hotel in Arlington and then a hotel in Petersburg, and that would qualify for this. It's designed to help rural areas, urban areas, goes along with commercial development. Real estate investment trusts can also be used for alternative energy. It makes us more competitive in places that maybe are trying to site wind projects and those things. It'll make us more competitive in the state. And I hope increased development and commercial real estate development in areas that need it, like Pulaski County and Petersburg and other folks.
Okay, Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman, originally I was a little tepid on this bill, but after looking at it, I'm persuaded of the merit of it, and I move to report.
Okay. All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? I would have to say I was in the same posture, and you presented bills before that once I understood them, which I know you're experienced in this area, I was more comfortable with, because my original thought was, why would we want to give a tax preference to a REIT? Because they do pretty good for themselves.
Yes.
But, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Bell, as in Rob. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have House Bill 483.
483, okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this started identically to Senate Bill 562, which was Senator Obenshain's measure that you reported unanimously after an amendment. The amendment does make them a little different. It doesn't have the clause, but you took out the part of the bill that has the fiscal impact. The House budget does include the version with the fiscal budget, the fiscal impact paid for. Of course, at the will of the committee, but my expectation would be that you would conform it to Senator Obenshain's bill.
Possibly. Is Senator okay. Senator Obenshain, would that be your preference?
That would seem to be the next step here.
I think so.
Okay, okay. So we have the substitute? Okay. We could just, y'all want to just conform that? Is there a motion to conform to the Senate bill? Okay, motion properly supported to conform House Bill 483 to Senate Bill 562, dealing with the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the bill is conformed.
Mr. Chairman, then you reported that bill 16-0.
I move to report.
Okay, all right, very good. Is there a second? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 483, amendment in nature of substitute. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported. Thank you, Delegate Bell. Delegate Byron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have two bills. House Bill 993, I guess I'll take up first.
993?
Yes.
Okay.
This bill deals with the Commonwealth Airport Fund allocations. I'm sure that most of you are familiar that there's two categories. There's an entitlement fund for the air carrier airports and the discretionary fund for all airports. What House Bill 993 does is amend the allocation of the discretionary fund. Currently, general aviation airports receive only 20% of the discretionary fund. Air carrier and reliever airports may use up to 40% of the discretionary fund. Fewer air carrier airports apply for the discretionary funding because they receive enough money through the entitlement fund. Reliever airports don't use all the available funds, so what this bill does is allow them to have some discretionary funding available to any airport, whether it's an air carrier, reliever, or general aviation airport, during the second half of each fiscal year. The result is they're able to make more improvements to more airports to serve the citizens better. The money is carried over, so it's something that stays in the fund anyway. This just allows them a little more discretion in their spending.
Here in opposition to the bill? Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 993. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill is reported. All right, get those,
Thank you,
Byron.
Mr. Chairman. The next one is House Bill 1382. This was brought to me by a local farmer in my district dealing with the ag best management practices BMP tax credit that we have on the books now. Just a little history with this is that originally the bill in 1996, we created the credit for those people that use best management practices. And in 2011, I believe it was, Senator Ticer had a bill that allowed the tax credit to be refundable. So it was refundable to individuals, meaning that they made it refundable to individuals, so proprietor, LLCs, S-corps. So as it turns out, this farmer that would like to be able to use this is a C-corp, and he, I don't know if it was overlooked or what the rationale was for just leaving out that one segment. So this bill would make it available to everyone.
That seems like a reasonable thing to do. Anyone here in opposition to this bill? What? Motion. Okay, motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 1382. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate Byron. I think Delegate Jones is in the room. Delegate Jones?
Morning, Mr. Chairman and
Morning,
committee.
Mr. Chairman. Missed you last night. You were always there, and you weren't there.
I know, I was home at condo rest, had a little bout with the flu and bronchitis and pneumonia, so.
Okay.
But I'm on the mend now.
Okay. You want to take up your budget bills first, or what?
You've already taken care of this for me, haven't you?
What's that?
You've already passed them, right?
No.
Oh, okay,
No,
daggone, I
no.
thought you might have.
The House Bill, you want to take up House Bill 29?
We can do that in 30, and just pass them in block if you'd
Well,
like, and then I can talk
think,
about 763.
We'll take them up separately because we want to tweak House Bill 29 a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. House Bill 29 is in front of us, Delegate Jones' bill. Motion be in order to conform to Senate Bill 29.
So move.
Motion properly supported to conform House Bill 29 to Senate Bill 29. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a, okay. We've got a technical amendment. No, we-
We got to amend it.
Okay, all right. Motion properly supported to report House Bill 29.
Oh,
Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
I guess the amendment's in there.
Cast your votes. Okay, clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. That bill is reported. We have in front of us now, Delegate Jones, House Bill 30. Chair would entertain a motion to conform.
Delegate Jones is so persuasive, I move that we conform it to the Senate Bill 30.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, motion properly supported to conform to Senate Bill 30. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we have a technical amendment, which would essentially be, we have on item 266, number 1S, we need to replace that with the correct wording. If someone would offer that motion, that would, okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion properly supported to make that technical amendment to House Bill 30. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That technical amendment didn't have anything to do with Medicaid, Delegate Jones, so we're
I think I know what it had to do with.
Yeah, okay. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Motion properly supported to report House Bill 30 as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Ayes 14, no zero. The bills are reported. Okay. I think you had another one, Delegate Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 763. This codifies what we have done, the two money committees in the legislature from last year's Appropriations Act, where we established a revenue reserve fund. We created and funded that item. And what this does is put into code practice moving forward to over a 6-year period, get to 2% of the general fund revenues. Key provisions are it does establish the special non-reverting fund within the state treasury. It states that in any fiscal year where there's no mandatory deposit to the stabilization fund, exclusive any deposit to the WQIF, that we shall deposit into the fund dollars not to exceed 1% of the total general fund revenues in the preceding year. It does provide, as I said, that you would not make a deposit into this fund when you have to make a rainy day deposit. On lines 114 to 119, it does set out conditions whereby the governor can include in the budget bill any appropriation for any additional deposits into the revenue reserve. And on lines 130 to 138, it sets out conditions under which the fund can be accessed. The premise behind this, as you know, is to make sure that if we do get into a downturn, we're buffeted to the 2% of our general fund revenues, because that's a trigger above that where the rainy day fund kicks in. Last year, the Senate and the House agreed to put $35 million into the fund, and in the House Bill 29, I think it includes an additional $121 million deposit, which would bring the total deposit to about $156 million FY 2018. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have, Mr. Chairman or members of the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate Jones. I think Senator Norman and I agree that it was a good initiative. We've worked together on this reserve fund. What we are proposing to do, staff has a substitute which basically adopts the language that we did in lieu of a bill in the budget, which we would propose to conform your bill to our budget language so we can work this out as we work out the budget in terms the specific provisions of your bill. Do we have a motion to adopt the substitute? Motion properly supported to adopt a substitute for House Bill 763. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, Delegate Jones, you've made your presentation, and we obviously are supporting the same concept as you, just a little bit different with what we did in the budget. Okay, there's a motion properly supported to report House Bill 763, amendment in nature of a substitute. Delegate Jones, you have anything further to say at this point?
No, I'll just say I'm looking forward to this and probably several other dozen bills I'll be on conference with a bunch of you on as
Right.
we head into the next couple of weeks.
Good quality time, right. All right, motion properly supported. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported.
I thank the
Thank you,
committee.
Delegate Jones.
Thank you very much.
All right. Delegate Leftwich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is House
morning.
Bill 747.
747.
Yep. And this is designed to kind of level the playing field for veterinarians, and I'll give you 3 examples of how they're treated somewhat differently now. The first is several years ago when we adopted the prescription monitoring program. Any prescription that for an opioid had to be farmed out to a pharmacist. And so if a veterinarian writes a script for more than 7 days, that someone goes to the pharmacy and gets it filled, there's no sales tax collected. But if the veterinarian prescribes it for 7 days or less, they would pay sales tax on it, since they would not be the consumer of that product within the pharmacy, the veterinarian. Second is, a lot of rural areas, if the veterinarian's not the user and they were to sell this to a livestock farmer, they couldn't collect the sales tax because the livestock farmers are exempt anyway. So the veterinarians are caught eating the expense. Sorry, and the third example would be when they insert a microchip into an animal, a locality who does that fairly regularly through their they go out and catch the animals when they're loose, whatever, and they insert one. They don't pay tax on the microchip, but the veterinarian does. So, just several examples of how these exemptions have been made for other organizations, and it's gotten so narrow that the only person who actually pays the tax is the veterinarian. So,
Dr. Leftwich, I think I support your bill in concept. We were struggling with it a bit in terms of what it might do without knowing the consequences. Now, do you have anyone here to speak to it? I was going to ask.
I do not.
Okay.
I know that.
We have someone here to speak to it? Okay. Now, I was going to ask Tax maybe for a comment on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Susan Seward with the Virginia Veterinary Medical Association. To elaborate a little on what Delegate Leftwich said, in 2006, this body removed the sales and use tax exemption on agricultural animals. That passed both houses unanimously. So we have lived without that revenue now for 11 years. Relative to the prescription monitoring program, that shift, courtesy of the legislation this session, the large scripts, the 30, 60, 90 days of tramadol, for example, those scripts being shifted to the Walgreens or the local pharmacy, those over 7 days prescriptions are a large part of our business, if you will. We have done that to help the opioid crisis and to get those long-term opioid scripts into the PMP system. The pharmacist will enter them at the pharmacy. But between the ag exemption that's been gone for a long time, the shift of everything controlled 2 through 5 over 7 days to the pharmacy where there's no tax, the little bit left where sales and use will be charged out of the vet hospitals, we don't have an estimate, but it's certainly going to be a much smaller number now after 7 days, shifting it all to the pharmacies. I have talked to the tax department. I know they are here relative to the impact of this bill. I think it's going to be tough to know because we don't have anything to base it on. But again, we have really shrunk the universe of what we're going to be charged in sales and use tax on. So.
Okay. Thank you. Is tax, because someone from tax want to help us here?
Good morning, Joe Mayer with the Department of Taxation.
Okay.
I wanted to clarify one thing. The agricultural exemption is still in place for the medicines for the animals. It's what we're talking about is companion animals, and we treat veterinarians as service providers, and the customer doesn't have to pay sales tax on the charge to go to the vet. And service providers pay sales tax on the materials they purchase to perform their service. I know there has been some concerns because as different channels have opened for these medicines, and I think that it's fair to say that in some situations the only person paying sales tax are the veterinarians on these medicines, because the state has an exemption for the medicine sold on the veterinarian's prescription, and a lot of people are buying these drugs online. There's no sales tax in many cases, but there is But there is a situation where the vets are paying sales tax when they buy the drugs that they resell to their customers. There is a fiscal impact. We've struggled with it because we know a lot of money is spent on these medicines, but some of it is being sold by pharmacies, some of it's being sold by online retailers, some of it is being sold by the veterinarians. And in the case of the veterinarians, they don't charge the sales tax, they pay the sales tax on the purchase. So we don't think it's any more than 3 million a year. We think it's less than that. And as the industry changes, it may be even less.
Okay. If we were to, the bill, I think, perhaps is a valid bill, but what, I guess not having a handle on it, if we were to continue the bill and ask you all to, by letter, to do a study on this, could you help us out? Sure.
Yes, we can do that. We're happy to work with the
Okay.
veterinarians.
Okay. Doug Leftwich, what's your thought on that?
Well, obviously, I'd like to get it passed this year, but I understand the posture we're in, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay. All right. Anyone else here to speak on this bill? What's the pleasure of the committee? Okay, there's a motion. Was there a second to that? Motion properly supported to continue the bill to 2019 with a letter being sent to the tax department asking them to help us understand the implications for the measure. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes.
Okay, thank the committee for its time.
Right, close the roll. Thank you, Delegate Leftwich.
15, no, 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is continued with a letter. Delegate LaRock. We got somebody.
No, just
Okay.
Thank
Good morning.
you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I'm here to present House Resolution 41, which proposes a constitutional amendment that, if approved by the General Assembly and voters, would institute a lockbox on transportation funds, prohibiting the General Assembly and future administrations from using regional and statewide transportation funds for non-transportation purposes. The amendment specifies that the General Assembly may borrow from the Transportation Trust Fund for other purposes only by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members elected to each house. The amendment further requires that any loan from the Transportation Trust Fund be repaid with reasonable interest within 4 years. Mr. Chairman, in the 2013 General Assembly, we made a bold commitment to transportation through new dedicated sources of funding for regional statewide transportation projects with House Bill 2313, and that is delivering transportation projects for Virginia. Virginia's lockbox is consistent with that commitment and protects funding moving forward. This is particularly important to Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads regions, which are facing ongoing transportation crises and have additional dedicated taxes which residents were promised would go to transportation. While language included in 2313 protected Northern Virginia regional transportation funds from misuse, no such protections were in place for the Hampton Roads area. This amendment would protect those regional transportation funds.
Okay. Excuse me, Dr. Rock, I think Senator Norman has a question.
No,
observation.
just a comment. Delegate LaRock, thank you for bringing this back to our attention. As you well know, it's an issue we're very familiar with, that it's been introduced on a repetitive basis. The challenge that we have is that there was a similar or companion bill that we had in the Senate that we did not pass, and so it puts us in a little bit of an awkward situation. And so I just thought, as a matter of courtesy, I would share that with you.
Yes, Senator Zaslow.
Just a couple of observations. I can remember 2 times that we borrowed from Transportation Trust Fund One was under Governor Wilder, and the other was under Governor Warner. In each case, they were repaid within 2 years, 2 to 3 years. One time it took 4 years, but with 7.5% interest. And we've never, ever returned general fund money that we've used on transportation. See, I would not have a problem, Delegate LaRock, if you also said you could not use general fund money for transportation. I mean, it ought to be a two-way lockbox, but nobody wants to do that. So, that's the big problem that I have with this bill.
Senator Obenchain?
Mr. Chairman, I hesitate to take a view that's contrary from my friend, the senior senator from Fairfax. I like this bill when it came forward from the Senate, and I like it now. Okay. I would say that this is a trust fund, which is different from a general fund. And I think that we have an obligation to protect the integrity of a trust fund, but a general fund is used for our priorities. And for me, priorities include transportation, education, and public safety. And we ought to be able to tap the general fund for transportation dollars if they're needed. So, Mr. Chairman, I like this, and at an appropriate time, I would move to report.
Okay. Well, Senator Obenchain, I guess we're getting close to the appropriate time, but we could there's a House Joint Resolution 41 and House Bill 734. We can move those in a block, either up or down.
I have a substitute motion that they be passed by indefinitely.
Okay. Well, do you want to make your motion first?
We'll see whether I've got a second, but I move to report.
Okay. Is there a second to that? Second. Motion properly supported. Now, do you want to offer a substitute?
Substitute would be to pass it by indefinitely, as we've done before.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the previous question.
Making it complicated here. Well, we can do that. Previous question, was there a second to the previous question? Call for the previous question? Second. Okay. Previous question has been called. All those in favor of ordering the previous question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Signify by saying no. Okay, the previous question has been called. We will vote on the primary motion, which is to report. Clerk, open the roll.
And the roll is open.
And we're voting in a block. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 7, noes 9.
Ayes 7, noes 9. The bill fails to report. And the resolution failed to report, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate LaRock. Do you have any others on the docket? No, I don't believe you did.
No.
Thank you. Delegate Moorfield.
Tommy, you know what this is.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. You have before you House Bill 222, and we do have a amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the substitute?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have in front of us the substitute for House Bill 222. Okay. Delegate Moorfield?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the amendments simply add a few localities that were not included in the original bill, but are within the regions of Southwest Virginia and Southside Virginia. And then also, if you will turn to page 10.
Page 10, okay.
There is a technical amendment that comes at the request of the Department of Taxation. And let me compare these. If I'm not mistaken, staff may have to correct me. On line 258, we struck the word sole and included the word primary. And the reasoning for doing so is this would give VEDP a little more muscle, I guess you could say, in their ability to scrutinize so-called sham transactions. For example, the current bill, if VEDP denies the certification of a company if it engages in a sham or for restructuring, the sole purpose of which is to take advantage of the tax break. But sole would be an easy test for the company to avoid a meeting. A company could argue that it had at least one other purpose for the restructuring, however far-fetched. So changing the word primary, or from sole to primary, as I said, would give VEDP a little more muscle to scrutinize possible sham transactions. So you have before you House Bill 222. Out of respect for the committee and the chairman, I know there was lengthy discussion in committee and on the floor. I would like to say that the situation in these localities is dire. I'm now serving in my 9th year in the General Assembly. The economy, especially in the coal fields, is much worse today than it was 9 years ago. If Congress and the President were to eliminate all of the restrictions on the coal industry today, that would not address the majority of the problems that we are faced with, specifically in the coal fields. We did a very bad job over the past 50 years of diversifying the economy. And so we're hopeful that the bill before you today would provide Virginia, and especially those localities, a unique opportunity, something that's not done anywhere in the country to help revitalize the economy.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate Morefield. As you indicated, we've talked about this a lot because you've worked on this a long time, and Senator Stanley basically introduced your concept and worked with you on that. And we did put the clause on Senator Stanley's bill, and we're still wrestling with the potential impact of this. And as you and I have discussed, are looking at other ways as well to have meaningful support for economic development in that region. The chair would entertain a motion to add the financial contingency clause.
So moved. Second.
Motion properly supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, is there anyone that came prepared to speak in opposition to this? I wouldn't think so. I mean, we can argue the merits in terms of a constitutionality and how the impact would be, but okay. Motion properly supported to report the House Bill 222 amendment in nature of substitute. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 3.
Ayes 11, noes 3. Is that we good? Okay, all right. The bill is reported. The bill is reported.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Morefield. Delegate Toscano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members of the committee, I've got two bills. The first one I think should be fairly easy. That's 360. This is related to the Daughters of Zion Cemetery. This is one of these cemetery bills that have been brought in the aftermath of the legislation that was passed several years ago. This would add 192 sites in Charlottesville at this monstrous cost of about $960. I think it was in the governor's proposed budget. I think it's in the House budget, and I believe it's also in the Senate's budget. Right?
That is great. Yes, I think we'll be okay on this one.
I hope we're okay on this one.
This is a part of the historical African American cemetery. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 360. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 0.
Ayes 14, no 0. The bill is reported. Okay.
Thank you. The second one is more challenging, mainly because of the money piece of it. This is a claims bill on behalf of a constituent in Charlottesville, Robert Davis. I think you probably have read the resolution. The resolution states the facts pretty clearly. He'd spent 13 years in jail, and there were all kinds of terrible circumstances, not only involving the crime, but also in terms of how this case unfolded, with a lot of inappropriate interrogations. And after the fact, after we've gone through this whole process, he was given a pardon. I think his case is now in the process of being expunged. He has support from the Commonwealth's attorney in Albemarle County. And the problem is that the money for this was in the governor's introduced budget. It was retained in the House budget, but for some reason it didn't get into the Senate budget.
Right.
And
right.
I think probably because it's a fair bit of money.
Right.
So, I would imagine that the clause is probably going to be put on this bill, and hopefully we can find the money in conference.
Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Toscano, we did not have a claims bill in the Senate.
Oh, and that's maybe
And
why.
so
it
that's
wasn't
why
there.
there was no
Okay.
corresponding budgetary money. And so in order to have a discussion about it, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest we add the clause and would so
Okay.
move.
Right.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor of the, yes, you want to speak to it before we add the clause?
I would just like to ask, Delegate Toscano said it's supported by the Commonwealth Attorney in Charlottesville. Albemarle.
Right.
Is that the Commonwealth Attorney that prosecuted him?
No, that Commonwealth attorney is long gone. But,
Deceased?
No, I've been out of office for a long time. But Senator Obershane asked me about the present Commonwealth attorney, and I wanted to make sure that I brought that to the attention. They're both of the same party.
That doesn't matter to me. I just want to know from the Commonwealth Attorney
Right.
that prosecuted how he felt and what circumstances, if it was all based upon the interrogation as to why he pursued and convicted the gentleman.
Yeah, it wasn't just that. There were witnesses who would have testified against Mr. Davis because he never really went to trial. And Mr. Davis's attorney's here, and he can go through all the facts with you if you want. But suffice it to say, these witnesses recanted their testimony. That opened everything up. Then they started looking at the interrogations. Mr. Davis had asked for a polygraph, I don't know how many, 7 times, and had persisted in his claim to be innocent until after a number of interrogations led him eventually to confess. So we have Mr. Rosenfield, we have Mr. Davis here too, in case you would like to ask some more about the factual circumstances surrounding the case.
Okay. Senator Obenchain also had or did you concluded?
Well, I'm done, but I'm not convinced.
Okay. Okay. Senator Obenchain?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't know much about this claim precisely for the reason that Senator Norman mentioned. I didn't see a claims bill until this bill came before us. I have asked a few questions this morning, and I know, having served on the claims subcommittee with Senator Carrico, some of the issues that are occasionally of concern, and maybe if the clause gets attached and progresses, will give Senator Carrico and others interested an opportunity to do any more due diligence. I did a little diligence this morning, and some of my concerns were answered and addressed. So,
okay.
And we'd be happy to make
sure.
our folks
Okay.
available to satisfy you about the situation.
All right, we have a pending motion to attach the financial contingency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, that is attached. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report the bill as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Thank you.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Thank you, Delegate Toscano. Delegate Stolle. Oh, he was in the block. Okay. Delegate Bulova. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's House Bill 358. So we're turning our attention to groundwater management now.
Okay. All right. Good subject.
All right.
All right,
Very good.
Delegate Bulova.
Yeah, thank you. So House Bill 358 is a result of a collaborative effort between Department of Environmental Quality and the Home Builders Association for over the last 3 years. And really the purpose of the bill is twofold. So it's one, to make sure that when you have new subdivisions that go into one of our 2 groundwater management areas in Virginia, that both the neighbors of that subdivision as well as the subdivision itself are protected with regard to groundwater quality and quantity in the long term. The thing that the bill addresses is this. So if you are an entity in a groundwater management area, and so those are our 2 most sensitive areas in Virginia, Senator Norment knows because I believe you're in one, you have to get a permit if you withdraw more than 300,000 gallons per month. However, so imagine this, if you were a subdivision and a relatively large one, and you put down individual wells for each of those plots, you can withdraw much more than that 300,000 gallons in terms of that limit. It was very important for the home builders not to have a new permit requirement, and so what they did was they worked very closely with DEQ on this solution. And so what they came up with in this bill is that for any subdivision of more than 30 homes where the individual lots are going to be supplied by private wells, the developer has to apply to DEQ for a non-binding technical evaluation. And within 60 days, DEQ comes back, they do that technical evaluation, and they make recommendations in order to make sure that there is sufficient water supply for the long term. Again, it's non-binding, and so the developer can say, hey, not interested, but if they do say that they're not interested, in order to make sure we're protecting the property owners for the long term, they do have to come up with a mitigation plan that's approved by DEQ. I would note that this only applies to wells that tap the deep aquifer. That's the one that we're really concerned about, not the superficial aquifers. I think the reason why there's a fiscal impact on this, or a fiscal concern, is that it does authorize DEQ to charge a fee for that evaluation. This is something that's relatively complex. Question was asked earlier on, is this something that the well driller could do or just a normal engineer could do? And that's not the case. This is something that DEQ has groundwater modelers that do that. Home Builders Association recognizes that fact, and that's why they were willing to go ahead and concede to having that fee in order to make sure that their property owners, after they bought that, are protected and will have water supply in the long term. Dave Paler from DEQ is here if you have any questions, but that's the nature of the bill.
Okay. Sounds like you got all the parties together on it.
Yes, sir.
Is anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? What's the pleasure of the committee? Oh, yeah. You want, Senator Stewart?
Mr. Chairman, I do. And no offense to Delegate Bulva, but the genesis of this bill actually is the fact that the Potomac Aquifer, which is the largest one in the Eastern Virginia groundwater management area, is being depleted at a pretty significant rate by industrial users. And this is drinking water. And to the extent that right now there really is no room for growth, either in homeowners or business in Virginia, unless we take some significant measures. And what we see as a result of some of this work group is a bunch of restrictions being placed on homeowners, and it will have no meaningful effect whatsoever on it. To me, it is offensive to go after the homeowners and continue to include restrictions on them, which drives up the cost of housing for most of these folks. And it doesn't have any meaningful impact when we need to deal with the real issue, and that's the industrial user. There are 2 industrial users right now that are withdrawing half of the amount from the aquifer, the total amount. And I wouldn't suggest that I think we need to help those industrial users with a way to find another way. But to me, it's kind of silly to make somebody who's got a 30-lot subdivision pay DEQ a $5,000 fee, and then you don't even have to listen to what DEQ tells you. I don't expect to change anybody's mind, but that's the real issue here. We won't deal with the real problem, so we're sort of hitting around the edges and picking on the homeowners.
Okay. I think your point is well taken, Senator Stewart, but the bill is in front of us. Anyone else speak in opposition? What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 358. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 9, nays 6.
Ayes 9, nays 6. The bill is reported.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate Boulevard. Delegate Aird.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Good morning.
Before you should have House Bill 1390. Mr. Chairman, House Bill 1390 amends the code by changing the way the mills tax question appears on the ballot. And the language in the bills, if you draw your attention to lines 37 through 51, spells out exactly how the question must appear on that ballot. Right now, the law requires voters to approve the issuance of debt and the revenues to be used for it as two separate questions. House Bill 1390 would simply allow a county to adopt an ordinance or resolution providing for the payment of the bond with revenues from the mills tax and allow the county to put before the voters a consolidated question on the implementation of those mills tax, rather than asking those two questions separately as it is required by the law at this time. Ultimately, this change prevents a situation in which voters approve a debt, but not the revenues to be used to pay for that debt. And this has happened in several examples in past localities. And ultimately, we're just trying to change the way that question appears on the ballot.
Delegate Aird, I think the bill makes sense and is, I think is going to be supported, but we discovered some technical issues with it, so staff has drafted a substitute. If we could have that. Is there a motion to adopt the substitute?
So moved.
All those in favor of adopting substitute signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the substitute is in front of us. The essence of the technical amendment that we needed to do in the substitute, I believe, was to address the appropriate code sections in Title 58. And so that's what we've done. It doesn't change your bill at all, Delegate Aird, other than just referencing appropriately Title 58, the tax code section. Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, I noted she got a little wide-eyed when we mentioned the substitute. It doesn't hurt your bill. Okay.
Yeah, I just hadn't seen it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Obenchain?
Can you give us a little bit of an idea as to why there's concern about presenting the two questions, and what do you hope to accomplish from this? I am concerned that somehow lost in the mix of one single longer question is the question of whether we ought to raise meals tax.
Certainly. So this bill does not change that process whatsoever, and it does not obligate the use of that. I'll give you 3 different examples, or just one for a point of reference. This happened in Loudoun County, Chesterfield County, as well as Fairfax County. In Chesterfield, the voters rejected the mills tax, which was proposed for the sole purpose of funding a capital project, but they approved the $49 million bond referendum for the public safety projects. So they wanted the project, but didn't want to have the mills tax used to pay for the project.
Mr. Chairman, maybe that goes back to the lockbox question and whether they thought that general funds ought to be applied rather than raising the local meals tax. Isn't that so? I'm sorry. I withdraw the question.
She just smiles on that one. Okay. Okay. Anyone here speak in opposition to this bill? Motion properly supported to report the bill is House Bill 1390, amendment in nature of substitute. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 4.
Ayes 12, noes 4. The bill is reported.
I thank the committee.
Thank you, Delegate Aird. Delegate Pogge. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. House Bill 680, and I'll tell you what the bill does, and then I'll tell you why it's a good bill.
Okay.
What the bill does is simply reduce the minimum tax on small utility trailers from $75 to $35. And why it's a good bill is, I got a letter from a constituent who had purchased a small 4x6 utility trailer from Lowe's. The trailer cost $440. The next day, he went to DMV to register and purchase plates for the trailer. He saw that he had to pay $75 in taxes on the small $400 trailer, which amounted to a 17% sales tax on the trailer. By the time he had registered the trailer, paid tax on it, he ended up paying $155 for a $400 trailer, which was 35%. So what my bill does is, since a small utility trailer is not a motor vehicle, and it has no motor, it's just a box with 4 wheels on it, what my bill does is reduce the minimum from $75 to $35, because what we're looking at is the little guy who goes to buy the little trailer, but he ends up paying a big tax, which actually is the equivalent of what he would pay the tax on a $1,800 trailer. Because once you get up to $1,800, then the tax is 4.15%. Right now, at $400, the tax is 17%. And so that's what the bill does, costs a little money, but it is extremely fair-minded, and it doesn't eliminate the tax, which I would have liked to have done, or at least reverted it to 4.15, but it does bring it down closer to 8.5%. That's what the bill does.
Thank you, Delegate Pogge. Anyone here to speak either for or against the bill? Delegate Pogge, I'm inclined to support it because I see those little trailers at Lowe's, and I might want to buy one. But
Well, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to move to report it.
okay, there would be some loss to the transportation revenue. Do you want to speak to that, or?
Just want to acknowledge that fact.
Okay.
I'm John Lawson from Department of Transportation. Again, there is a fiscal impact that would impact the revenues that are provided to the Highway Maintenance and Operating Fund
Okay.
and amounts to the Treasury.
What I was wondering, and I won't want to get into it in depth right now, we have a motion pending, but it appears because the popularity of these little trailers that go behind these SUVs, that maybe we've been picking up a lot more money and because of the volume that they're selling. Would that be correct?
That is a possibility, yes, sir.
Right, okay, thank you. All right, there's a mill, y'all, same point? Yours the same point? Okay, good, okay, thank you. All right, there's a motion properly supported to report the bill, House Bill 680. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Ayes 16, no zero, the bill is reported.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience with us.
Surpassed my greatest expectations.
Okay. Delegate Davis.
Yes, sir. House Bill 798 is a bill that creates a level playing field for a new category called debt buyers. Basically, the situation is we have situation in the Commonwealth where out-of-state entities actually have a competitive advantage over in-state entities that are in this field. What this does is prevents the double tax situation on Virginia-based companies that fill in here. And it actually impacts a company down in Hampton Roads who is trying to expand with 300 jobs to Danville. And this actually makes that happen.
Okay. Anyone here to speak for this, or?
Probably a number, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ryan Dunn with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. This is a bill that was brought to us by one of our members as well. They have big issues, puts us on a level playing field with some competitors south of us specifically. We're trying to keep these jobs here. PRA Group specifically, 2,000 employees in Hampton Roads area. So with that, we ask you to support the bill to try to keep those jobs there and to also expand those jobs to Danville, which is something they're looking to do as well. But can't do it without something leveling the playing field.
Senator Sasslaw?
Yes.
Delegate Davis, what's the problem?
Yes, sir. So the company, PRA, is a debt buyer. They buy debt, and then they collect on the debt. And the way it works is there are employees in Virginia that call to collect on the debt. Virginia, being one of the few states left in the nation that requires income tax to be paid based on where the workforce is, requires PRA to pay taxes on all that money collected because it's the workforce in Virginia. Most other states in the nation have shifted to require income tax to be paid on where the customer is. So let's say PRA Group, for example, calls into Maryland. Virginia says the workforce is in Virginia, we want tax. Maryland says, yeah, but the customer is in Maryland, we want tax, and there's a double tax situation. Conversely, the competition scenario, the conversely is one of the competitors being in Maryland calls into Virginia. Virginia says, well, the workforce is in Maryland, we don't want tax. And the customer is in Virginia, and Virginia says, we don't want tax because workforce is in Maryland, and it's income tax free.
Well, let me ask you, what happens if they call into Florida, which has no income tax? Does that mean that the Virginia company pays no income tax on what it collects?
Well, what this bill does and what this company has offered is to literally pay income tax to Virginia, regardless of where they call to collect money, as long as it's not into a state that already charges the income tax.
Oh, that charges them?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So all we're doing is trying to get rid of the double tax scenario.
Okay.
They've even offered, I'll go as far as, right now, when their facilities in Tennessee call into other states or call into Virginia, they don't have to pay income tax on that money. They've actually offered, and it's in this bill, that they will now be paying income taxes when any of their locations call into Virginia because all they're looking for is that level playing field.
Okay. Doug Davis, in the past, we've rejected market-based sourcing, but this is very limited. I was wondering, tax have a thought on this?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Kristen Collins from the Department of Taxation. Based on how the bill defines a debt buyer, we think it's probably a limited number of companies. We've identified a handful that are currently paying taxes in Virginia. We don't know the actual revenue estimate because we don't know how it'll affect people that are not currently paying in Virginia under this bill. Some people or companies that are out of state may end up paying taxes in Virginia. So we really don't know the revenue impact. It's a limited number of companies, but depending on the companies affected, it could be a significant amount of money.
That we would collect, that we're not collecting now?
Well, the offset, we don't know. So based on the companies that are filing now, and it's hard to release a number too because it's such a limited number of companies, but we would likely lose money at least in the initial years until the out-of-state companies start paying.
Okay. Delegate Davis has a different opinion.
Well, and I do just a little only because I know the industry. So there's about 5 big players in the nation, and this is one of them, and this is the only one in Virginia. So what you do initially is some of the income tax that they're paying now, which is a double tax scenario, they wouldn't pay. Some money that Virginia is not getting now from them, they would get. And the big players around the nation who right now collect from Virginia consumers who pay zero now would pay tax. And the industry as a whole has come out in favor of this. So even the competitors of PRA have said, yes, we're for this. So I do think there's going to be a lot larger offset than anticipated. But I do believe a tax, across the board, is going to be de minimis. But more importantly, sir, this is but for scenarios. This company has expanded in 3 locations with 500 employees. They hired a consultant. This is a company that started in Virginia, Virginia Beach, out of a 1-bedroom apartment, basically. They're an international publicly traded company now. They want to expand, and their consultants would not recommend anywhere in Virginia because of the tax policies. They want that 3rd expansion location to be in Virginia, and this gets it to be Virginia.
Okay. Does tax have any follow-up on that?
No, sir. I'm happy to answer any other questions,
Okay,
but I don't have anything else specific.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Wagner?
given the jobs that increase, I suspect there'll be an overall increase in general fund revenues by just the job creation and probably what's a growth business. So I'd move to report.
Second. Okay. Motion properly supported, not by this specific action, but what the company may do because of this action.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Davis. Delegate Weber. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as this bill was heard pretty extensively in general laws, I'm just going to give a real quick synopsis. I have people here to testify if needed, and to answer any questions if needed as well. I'm here to speak in favor of 1609, the legislation that is Virginia's opportunity to revitalize and restart the horse industry. It's historical horse racing, and it's a solution that has the strong and unified support of Virginia's horse industry. The revenue generated by this legislation will actually allow or enable Colonial Downs to be viable again and bring back horse racing within our borders. Recently, Chimera Economics and Analytics studied what historical racing would mean for the Commonwealth, and they project it would create over 1,400 new jobs, have an annual economic impact of $349 million, and generate $41 million in annual state and local tax revenue. That's real money for our schools, roads, and public safety, and it's money we are currently losing out on. And this legislation is that opportunity to move forward.
Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to compliment the delegate in bringing the bill. When Colonial Downs shut down in New Kent County, there was a significant adverse fiscal impact on that county. Not only were jobs lost, but revenues were lost because the host locality at that time was also receiving a percentage of the OTB facilities. And I think this is an opportunity with a very sound group who seems to have a good business plan to revitalize and reopen Colonial Downs, which will have a significant positive impact on New Kent County.
Doug Weber, I think you're going to find significant support here in the committee. I'd asked staff maybe to prepare, as we looked at it, an amendment that would ensure it got in conference so we'd have a chance for you and others to sit down in conference and make sure we got it right on both sides. And with that, I asked staff to prepare a reenactment clause, which you won't like, but you can take it off in conference and we can have an opportunity to make sure it's right.
Let me follow up on that.
Okay.
It's interesting that I've been on the other side of that dais to watch your facial reactions on it. This is not a poison pill, okay?
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to attach the reenactment clause?
Moved.
Motion properly supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move report.
Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is House Bill 1609 as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 4.
Ayes 12, noes 4. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Weaver. Delegate Itis. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members.
Let me tell you.
Good to have you here. I think this is your first visit.
It's certainly the first before this committee, sir.
Right. Which bill you want to take up first?
I think if we go in numerical order, that would be HB 1151, sir.
Okay.
And it has to do with fishing licenses. What it does is raise the age from 12 to 16 years of age for non-Virginia residents to need fishing licenses. So if you are under 16 and if you are with a licensed fisher person in Virginia, you don't need to get the fishing license.
Okay. I think Senator Stewart heard this briefly in his committee, and he's a big fisherman. What do you think of this bill, Senator Stewart?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a good bill. I think there was some misunderstanding when we did this on the floor quickly, and this actually would expand those kids who are able to fish for free.
Okay.
That was the general idea. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion properly supported. Was there anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, noes 1.
Ayes 15, noes 1.
Oh.
All right. Senator Vogel is your buddy, isn't she? She's supposed to be.
She's certainly she's my senator,
All right,
actually.
Could you just strike the roll? All right, we're striking that vote. Okay. All right, clerk, open the roll again.
Roll is open,
Cast your votes. All right. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported with the support of your colleague. Okay. All right,
Thank
you have another bill?
Yes, and it actually is an identical match to Senator Vogel's bill. 1437.
Senator Vogel?
She's right there.
Oh, there you, okay.
It is a bill to amend the charter of Middleburg. It does not raise an old tax. It does not impose a new tax. It merely allows Middleburg to continue taxing as they have since 1998.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we have heard this bill, but what our concern was, Senator Vogel, we wanted to make sure we got it in a form that you perhaps were agreeing to because we had evolved it a little bit. Is it like it is, should be now? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't understand that exchange.
Well, we had amended Senator Vogel's bill a couple of times, and I wanted to make sure y'all's bills were alike.
Without the emergency clause, because we only have a 1 vote margin in the House.
I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. What we're doing is, initially hers had the emergency clause on it. That has been removed now.
Right,
And we want to keep your bill that way then.
right. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the bills are identical without the emergency clause.
Move to report.
Motion properly supported to report House Bill 1437 dealing with the charter of Middleburg. No further discussion. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you, Delegate Itis. Delegate Yancey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bring before you House Bill 129. This is something we worked on with Newport News Public Schools, and we have the support of groups like the Virginia Manufacturers Association. What this bill seeks to achieve that came out of the House is to have a $1 million tax credit for worker retraining.
How many bills before you get to Vermont?
For manufacturing, orientation, instruction, and training for students. Simply put, what the bill seeks to achieve in background is when the legislature passed a few short years ago the portrait of a high school graduate in the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of the challenges we've had are getting businesses to meet the students halfway due to OSHA, workers' compensation, insurance, and the like. So what this bill seeks to achieve is to facilitate a way that these businesses can have an offset to help them as they bring these young people in. So in my district, for example, you have Huntington Ingalls, Newport News Shipyard, you have WM Jordan Construction Company. So what we're often seeing is for young people who want to get the experience, some of these companies are hesitant to work with them because of some of these aforementioned problems. But what this bill can do is by working and giving them a tax credit, they can bring these young people in, they can train them, and then when they graduate from high school, they can graduate into a career with these companies or continue that work experience in community colleges while also continuing to go down the path for these trades. So for what Virginia wants to be able to do to be more and more competitive and have a workforce for these new economic opportunities, this bill seeks to achieve that by providing this tax credit accordingly. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Doug Yancey, your bill as it came to us has an unknown general fund revenue loss up to $800,000 per year. We did a similar activity with a Senate bill, which we limited to $125,000. It appears if we're going to pass this today, we would need at least a clause and then to discuss how we might get this in order to address your issue there. It's a good and meritorious goal.
So, Mr. Chairman, 2 points. One, in the original House version was 2.5. We lowered it to 1 million. And then secondly, the bill does have a sunset clause. So if it's something that companies are not using, then it will come to an end in about 4 or 5 years if the bill becomes law.
Okay. Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, obviously, I'm very supportive of the bill, and what it's directed at is obviously a major construction player in the state, but I think at least so we can have a discussion of it in conference, that we ought to go ahead and cap it at the 125 that we did on the Sturdivant's bill.
125?
I think that's what it was.
I believe it was. You agreeable to that? Will that accomplish your purpose? It was a much more limited program we had. Actually, it was constructed a little differently too, wasn't it? Charles, do you recall?
We're certainly agreeable, Mr. Chairman. I have with Brett Vassy from the Virginia Manufacturers, and so I think to speak to what the need of the manufacturing community that could probably.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the bill that you speak of with the 125 was a new credit that was capped at 125,000 a year. The concern with this bill is that expanding eligibility for the credit would increase the amount of claims that are currently being claimed under an existing program.
Okay. Maybe just the clause on it, and then we could determine the amount. Would that be more appropriate?
Let's do the clause and put it in conference.
Okay. I think, Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, it's important to Delegate Yancey and myself to make sure this bill remains viable. So I'm going to respectfully move that we put the clause on it so we can have that discussion in conference.
Okay. All right. Is there a second to that? Motion properly supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee?
I move to report as amended.
Motion properly supported to report House Bill 129 as amended. No further discussion. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Delegate
members.
Yancey. We'll figure that one out in conference. Delegate Hugo. Delegate Hugo. Yep. There you are. I've heard a little bit about your bill already.
There's two. Which one? There's a Metro bill.
Senator Saslaw is back. If you want to take that up first, he wanted to be here when you took that one up.
Yeah.
Because he has an interest in it.
Senator Saslaw has been a strong advocate of Metro, and I appreciate the bill he put in. I know Senator Howell and others. The bill 1539 has a number of the provisions found in Senator Saslaw's bill. Some are different. I know there's an anticipation on the House. It will go to conference. In fact, yesterday, I think in the House, we conformed your bill to ours and put it out. So I can go into detail on this bill, or if this, we're going to anticipate.
Senator Saslaw?
Yeah, I mean, there's some similarities, but basically the bill that I had, I think, has $48 million more. We need $154 million to meet the, with what Ray LaHood, former Congressman LaHood and Secretary of Transportation came up with. You got that difference in there. Some other management, I think he's got his at 4, I've got mine, I think, at 8. And ultimately, it'll all have to get resolved in conference. And what I'm going to recommend is that my bill, which was 856, that an amendment in nature of a substitute to his bill, 1539, that we adopt my substitute conform it to mine.
Okay.
And there's some minor differences, but nothing that I don't think we can ultimately work out in the conference. And I think it's important that we get it there, because it's I don't have to tell you, I mean, Metro is extremely vital to our area, both from transportation and jobs.
All right.
Okay, so I would move that we conform his bill to mine.
Okay.
And
the second? Second. Any further discussion? No, Senator Barker, Senator Wagner, both involved. Senator Norman?
I would just say to Delegate Hugo, I think it's important that we keep the bills alive and get it in conference and have a discussion perhaps as opposed to some of the alternatives.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Now, with that, I would move that it be reported.
Okay, we've, all those in favor of conforming signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and you're okay. And then
And I would move that 1539 as an amendment in nature of a substitute be reported.
Motion properly supported that House Bill 1539, amendment in nature of substitute, be reported. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 10, no 6.
Ayes 10, noes 6. The bill is reported.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the leadership of Senate Transportation and Senate Finance on this. Look forward to going to conference.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hugo.
The other one is House Bill 1204.
I've heard about that.
Of interest to a few golfers up here. Here's where we are on this, Mr. Chairman. Thank y'all for, I know you've probably gotten, people have been emailing me and calling about this. What we have here is a question of equity. There are 2 golf courses in Northern Virginia. One is Washington Golf and one is Army Navy. And I just want you to imagine, a lot of you are golfers, I know, so you're teeing off, think it's going down the fairway. What these two golf courses in Arlington, some of us, it goes down the fairway, some of us off to the rough. Arlington is taxing these two golf courses, not like it's open space, but like on the hole, on the tee, there's a house. On the fairway, there's 3 houses. On the putting green, there's another house. So if you look at it, Fairfax, which I go to, they are taxed at $108,000. Washington Golf, $872,000. Army Navy, $1.5 million. In fact, if you add those two together, the tax rate, assessed tax for those two together, they equal the tax of the next 11 golf courses in Northern Virginia. They are less. It's 2.3 million, 2.3 million for the next 11. And if you look at Army Navy, any of you know, a lot of young men, women, soldiers, they don't make a lot of money, some of them, but they get a great deal to go there. And all we're saying at this is that we tell Arlington, we tell actually any golf course, any county that has a similarly situated golf course, that you can't tax it like houses all the way down to fairway, that you tax it at open space. And it's really a question of equity for these two golf courses and for the 5,000 veterans who are members of Army Navy. And so it goes from the 5,000 veterans, from the enlisted guy, like Senator Saslow and I were, to the junior officers, to President Obama is also a member. But fairness is fairness, and that's what we're trying to do here.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wagner?
Just a question for the patrons. So
Yes,
you mean
sir.
to tell me they're taxing the Army Navy Country Club or the Washington Golf and Country Club like they had to provide schooling for all the houses up and down the fairway, like they had to provide fire protection up and down the fairway, like they had to provide all the services you would associate with residential property? They're taxing that at
They
the
tax it
same
like a
rate?
single-family lot. I was trying to give you the visual. There's a nice, in their mind, there's a nice house on the fairway, on the tee box, on the putting green, and they're taxing like single-family lots. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, do we have here people, I'm sure we do have people here to speak for the bill and against the bill. We're going to have to be somewhat limiting on this, but if we could have some brief comments on both sides.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Skiles with the Vector Corporation representing Army Navy Country Club. I think Delegate Hugo has done a great job in teeing up this issue, but I'd like to drive home a couple points. Army Navy Country Club was founded in 1927. As Delegate Hugo said, it is a home for thousands of active duty and retired military that use the club as a social gathering. We have tried to work this issue out with Arlington County over the past several years, but to no avail. And so we are respectfully asking the committee to move forward on this legislation. As Delegate Hugo stated, in 2017, the total assessed value that Arlington County assessed our property at was $157 million. That's more than the next 9 major golf courses in Northern Virginia combined. So what we're looking for here is tax equity. We're certainly not looking for any preferential treatment, but as Senator Wagner pointed out, this is open space. It should be treated as such. One other point I'd like to make, some of the opponents to this bill have made note that there is litigation pending on this matter. And I want to address that for a minute. There is a lawsuit pending on the 2014 tax assessment. But that lawsuit is specific to the modeling that the county has used to derive at our total assessed value. It really has no bearing on the question that this committee is answering, which is the policy of whether this should be or shouldn't be taxed as open space. That lawsuit is specific to the model, and would be the question would be whether they are taxed at a rate of $134 million, which the county alleges in the 2014 tax assessment, or perhaps a lower rate, which was done by our private appraiser at $79 million. And so that really has no bearing on the policy question before you. Again, this is all about tax equity, and would appreciate the committee's consideration and support for the bill.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes, Senator Saslow.
What are they assessing the Army Navy at right now?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslow, the 2017 assessment was $157 million.
What would this bill take it down to?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslow, I think that the legislation would, I don't have a specific number for you, but we can probably take it down to around $19.4 million.
So in other words, you cut it almost 80%.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sassaw, I would say that would bring it in line with the other jurisdictions in Northern Virginia.
Okay. All right, that concludes your question. Had another speaker briefly?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Nicole Brenner with Reed Smith on behalf of Washington Golf. I just have two things to add in addition to what Delegate Hugo and Mr. Skiles have said. What this legislation does is prescribe how fair market value is assessed. That is left to the General Assembly. It's very similar to Delegate Orrock's bill, which you reported out this morning. The language in this bill on special and separate assessments is virtually identical to that bill. There are many other examples where the General Assembly has done this, such as mineral lands, wetlands, for the value of your tax donation, when there's multiple property owners. I won't list them all for you. The second is that I'd like to make clear that we have explored all other options that have been available to us. In March of 2016, representatives of Washington Golf met with John Vistat, an Arlington County board member, and as we understand it, we were told there was nothing that could be done about this assessment. So in 2016, we went to the Board of Equalization. The Board of Equalization held our assessment to 2015 as a placeholder, hoping that the county would do something in the intervening year. They made clear that the assessment was not fair, that the assessment was too high, that the comparison to residential lots was not a good comparison, and they asked the county to explore other options. After that equalization hearing, we went to the county planning and zoning and asked them to explore these other options. They told us there was nothing that they would do. We went back to the Board of Equalization in 2017. You've also heard about the litigation from Mr. Skiles. I'd like to make clear that litigation was filed because there was a statute of limitations that was going to run. The county filed an answer to that lawsuit so that the litigation would be live, so that they could ask you not to legislate this issue while the litigation was live. That litigation is also on only the 2014 assessment, and this legislation is on 2018 moving forward. So I agree with what Mr. Skiles has said about what the issue in the litigation is. This legislation is prospective, and the litigation is on 1 year. We have tried all other available options, and that is why we are here. I'd like to thank Delegate Hugo for putting in this bill and for the members of the Arlington delegation in the General Assembly who have spent a great deal of time working with us on this issue. I am sorry that their efforts did not lead to a more productive conversation with the county.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to hear a brief presentation from those that would not support the bill representing local government, I presume. And then I think if we could keep it brief, because probably we've been lobbying enough on this one, probably are locked in pretty much, but we'll go forward.
Parker, I gotta go upstairs.
Thank you. Chairman Norman, Chairman Hanger, and members of the committee. I'm John Weisstadt, an independent member of the Arlington County Board. With me today is a colleague, Libby Garvey. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this issue on Arlington's behalf. Our position: we do oppose HB 1204, a bill dealing with real estate assessments for open space, or in this instance, 2 golf courses. This is special interest legislation. We respectfully request that you vote against it. First, regarding substance. This bill does not establish equity among Northern Virginia country clubs as stated by the proponents. This bill would require Arlington to assess our courses differently and at a lower rate than Fairfax, Prince William, and Loudoun. But perhaps most significantly, it runs counter to the mechanism that you all, the General Assembly, have established for property owners to contest real estate assessments. Think about this. It would establish a risky precedent whereby any property owner who does not agree with their assessment could run to Richmond for a legislative fix. Under the current process utilized across the Commonwealth, local elected officials do not participate in the assessment of real property, which uses data and not politics to determine fair market value in accordance with the law. We respectfully request our state elected officials also refrain from taking action and trust the established process. Now, regarding process, this bill deals with an issue that is currently in active litigation. We ask you to uphold the Senate's long-standing tradition of withholding legislative consideration of measures that are subject to pending court action. Now, we've received a number of questions regarding why the assessments for Washington Golf and Army-Navy are so high relative to the other golf courses in the region, and indeed across the state. Assessing is both an art and a science. Reasonable people can differ. But in this case, it is important to note that the appraiser hired by one of the golf courses for the 2016 Board of Equalization hearing agreed with the methodology that we used. And in the current litigation, both golf courses have actually agreed to the methodology used by our county. What is being challenged currently and will be addressed by the court is not a difference in methodology, but in value. Notwithstanding these facts, what this legislation seeks to do is change the methodology, which is consistent with what the real estate and legal experts involved have called for. The bottom line is that the biggest factor driving the higher assessments and resulting higher taxes is the incredibly high price of land in Arlington County, 26 square miles adjacent to the Potomac River and across from the nation's capital. This is not something controlled by a locality. Arlington actually has the lowest property tax rate in the region. This is simply the result of market forces. As the realtors say, it's about location, location, location. In closing, our county attorney's office has responded to these suits and has been negotiating in good faith with opposing counsel to discuss potential ways to reach agreement on what the assessment should be. We have exchanged all the information we need and plan to formulate an offer to them this week. We have committed to this process, and we request the space and the time for our parties to finish that process. Finally, we do understand and acknowledge the perspective of the country clubs and are working to achieve an amicable resolution consistent with the law.
Okay.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to testify today and for considering Arlington County's position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Norman may have a question.
You know, having labored in the trenches of local government, I have some appreciation for what you're coming from, but you mentioned market conditions. Do you ever have any expectation whatsoever that there will be additional development on that golf course?
Mr. Chairman, it's hard to say.
Specifically residential or commercial development beyond a recreational use.
You know, I would say that if these courses are sold, it could well be for development as opposed to open space. And
Mr. Chairman, would that not constitute a significant change in use of the real estate?
I'm sorry.
If it was sold and development was put on it, would that not constitute a significant change in use?
It would.
Okay. All right. Let's have just some brief support for the supervisor's argument.
Not support.
Huh? No, support for the last argument. Yeah, opposition.
I think I can elaborate on that.
We don't want to elaborate. We want
All right, well, let me crystallize.
Neil, I know the answer. I've been there, done it.
Okay.
The only thing I would add to that, Senator Norman, is that this bill equates land use valuation and classifies it as fair market value. This land use valuation program is both a carrot and stick. All right, the carrot is the reduced real estate taxes you pay. The stick is if you change the purpose, all right, you're then subject under the code to a 5-year rollback. I know about the 5-year rollback. And this bill, as I said, says that land use valuation is the same as fair market valuation. The way you determine what the tax is owed is you take the fair market value, you subtract back out the land use value. The difference is the tax that's owed. If you're saying that land use valuation is the same as fair market valuation, you know, that subtraction is going to come up to zero. So if they sold the property or if they developed the property, the 5-year look back would not produce any tax penalty, as is currently the case if you were a farmer who sold that property, or if you were a horticulturist or a forester, you know, you still would be subject to that 5-year rollback.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Neil. Others opposed to the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties. We are also opposed to this legislation for the reasons that Mr. Weisstat laid out. We just think this sets a really problematic precedent. Local land use valuation programs have always been a local option, and we prefer that it remain that way. And we also think there are some unintended consequences for school funding and the rollback program, as was mentioned earlier, in addressing this very specific local situation with legislation. So
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I don't want to short circuit the debate, Delegate Hugo, but I think we've all been lobbied, so we probably know where we're going.
All right. I'll try to short circuit. I'll move to report.
Okay, motion properly supported that the bill be reported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ayes
Thank
11,
the
noes
panel.
4, 1 abstention. Thank you, Delegate Hugo, and all who have been working on this issue on both sides. The Delegate Wright. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and
I
ladies and
thought you might
gentlemen.
not be able to be with us here. We hung around long enough that you could be with us.
Well,
didn't
I appreciate that. I would ask for a short circuit. That's what I'd like to see happen. House Bill
211?
211
Okay.
is a result of a study that was made by the Eastern Virginia Groundwater Management Study, and it was brought before the State Water Commission. And this is a recommendation from the State Water Commission, and what it does is it lengthens the term from 10 to 15 years for the maximum term for a groundwater withdrawal permit, and it also increases the fee from $600 to $900, and it's a revenue enhancer.
Okay. Looks like what you're doing is increasing the length of the permit and increasing the fee at the same time so that your annual cost for the permit is the same. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill? What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 211. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. There we go. Okay, clerk close the roll. What?
Ayes 15, noes 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your patience. Delegate
Mr. Chair,
McQuinn?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Delegate Hugo's bill, House Bill 1404, can I ask that that bill please be reconsidered?
You can.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Senator Barker seconds.
Okay, okay. That is a recorded vote.
He means to
Tell me
second
when
that.
you're ready, John.
Roll is open.
The roll is open for reconsideration.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Mr.
there was a technical amendment that I think Senator Vogel had requested.
There was a technical
And I
amendment
apologize, I forgot.
that Delegate Hugo intended to
Mea culpa,
to
Madam
raise.
Okay. And do you have that? All right, if staff would report the technical amendment.
Mr. Chairman, on line 19, where it currently says at least 5 acres, change that to at least 20 acres.
These 20 acres, second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that truly technical? You got that? Is that technical? Okay, all right. Okay, all right, the amendment is adopted. What's the pleasure on the bill?
Move to report as adopted.
Is there a second? Motion properly supported to report the bill as amended now. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 4, 1 abstention.
Ayes 11, noes 4, 1 abstention. Thank you, Delegate Hugo. And Delegate McQuinn. Oh, I think, yes.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for your patience. I think your bill is fairly simple, and it has, this deals with the House Bill 360?
Yeah, House Bill 284.
284, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
right. I had the wrong one in front of me. 284. Dealing with the historical African-American
Yes.
cemeteries.
Yes, sir. And basically, sir, this was just basically language change from last year. Last year, we direct the disbursement of the funds, and this year, we came back for clarity to make sure who was eligible to receive these funds. And that would make the localities eligible to be the fiscally responsible for the funds, and they could therefore help provide the services that would need it, as well as other owners of historical cemetery or organizations.
Okay, so it appears the policy decision for us is in the past, it would apply to a locality. This would open it up to a person, because a lot of these cemeteries are owned by private individuals.
Yes,
Is
yes,
that-
sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And
Anyone
some
here
of
to
them are
speak?
very small, and so many of them turn them over, but there may be some who are interested in preserving it.
Okay, anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report House Bill 284. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Ayes 16, no zero.
Thank you, sir. All
Thank
right,
you.
have a great day.
We appreciate your patience. Do we have? Peace, okay.
It's identical to Senate bill that we did not receive. So we didn't need to come forward to do these two, but we didn't get the Senate bill.
You didn't. Got it, okay. For those of you who serve on rehabilitation and social services, there was a bill that came through that did not get reported to Senate Finance. And so what I would propose, the bill remaining on our docket is Delegate Peace's bill, that we conform his bill to the bill that was reported. No? It's identical? It's identical? Oh, okay. Apologize, it's already identical. So it has been vetted previously through Rehabilitation and Social Services. So Chair would entertain a motion simply to report House Bill 1602. Motion properly supported to report House Bill 1602 by Delegate Peace, dealing with confectionery license. No further discussion. Clerk open the roll. Cast your votes.
We need a bill for that. We need a bill for sugar.
Okay, we got all the votes cast here. Whoop. All right, add Senator Norman, yes. Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
As 12-1-0, consent enrollment will be 13.
Ayes 13, nays 1. The bill is reported. Does that clear the docket?
Putting sugar in the bill.
Okay, that clears our docket for the morning. Being no further business, I declare the meeting adjourned.